Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Patty G. Russo, and this is Let's Talk Pets on Society Bites Radio. Today, we welcome back to the show Dr. Wendy Ellis, and she's locally here where I am in Sarasota, Florida, and Lakewood Ranch, Florida. And we're going to talk about this blue-green algae. Even though summer's almost over, it's an important topic because some dogs recently have lost their lives due to this algae contamination, this toxic green sludge that's in some lakes and creeks, I guess, and just found all across the United States. So I wanted her to be able to talk about this. And then after we talk about it, she's going to let us know about her new veterinary medical center that will be opening soon. So welcome to the show, Wendy. Dr. Wendy.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you
You're
very much.
welcome. You're welcome. And Dr. Wendy is my vet. That's why I call her Wendy. Sorry.
Oh,
um, so yeah, the blue-green algae, when those three beautiful dogs recently died, that really caused a lot of, it was like trending basically amongst all the different pet groups on Facebook. And I don't know that it's here in Florida. I mean, we have this bad algae, so I imagine that it is, but I don't know. Have you heard of any cases here in Florida?
I haven't seen any, but actually, just prior to coming on the radio with you, I did look up to see if we had it specifically in this area. Down in Sarasota, Manatee County, they haven't had any deaths from that. But up in areas, the Pinellas County area, and some of the Manatee River and Gulfport and Treasure Island, they have had cases of dogs exposed to blue-green algae. So it is here in Florida.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was or not. So that means that even though, as I said, that summer's almost over and the people that live, I think it happened in Pennsylvania or something. I'm not really sure. Their summer will be over and their dogs won't be swimming, right? So, but down here they will. I mean, they probably jump in the water year round down here.
That's true. And it's the ASPCA, has found it's in water that's over 75 degrees. So down here, I think it extends way past our summer months.
Yeah.
The reports that I saw some of them from Austin, Texas, and Wisconsin, and I also heard of some from Minnesota. So I think it's kind of all over. And I don't think it's a lot of dogs that are dying. I think the thing that kind of makes you panic is if they are exposed to them, they die so quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what were some of the symptoms of it? It was basically what, they just drank the water? Or
They have to ingest it.
Okay.
They have to ingest it. From what I understand, there's two different types of toxins that you can see with the blue-green algae. One of them is a neurotoxin, and it just causes neurosigns. So you see, weakness, them walking off balance, maybe seizures. And it's reported that those signs appear within minutes. And, within an hour or so, the dogs have passed. They do have a different form. They have some of them that do hepatotoxins, which are liver toxins, take a little bit longer. So you have a little bit more chance to treat. But oftentimes, when you see the clinical signs, it's too late. So.
And what kind of treatment? Would you even try to save a pet?
Neurotoxin. Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot you can do. I think by the time you're there, no matter what efforts, you try, the pets are just going to pass. With the hepatotoxins, you might have a little bit more chance to save them. You can induce vomiting to try to get them to throw up some of the algae that they've consumed. Sometimes we use something called activated charcoal, which is great at binding toxins in the GI tract. And the liver is responsible for making a lot of different things, but blood glucose, that's one of its main functions. So we see some of these animals becoming extremely hypoglycemic. So you can do things like adding dextrose to their IV fluids to help support the liver in that way. And just checking their liver values and bile acids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty scary to think about it, that it happens that quickly.
Yeah, I agree.
And then there sadly isn't anything else that you can do. So do you know this question? You may not, and I don't know it. I read some articles, but it wasn't really too clear. Does the algae actually have to be present so you would know, don't let your dog go in there? Or could it be that you wouldn't even see it?
I have read that it can be there, but you may not see it.
Mm.
So although you don't see that film or that coat over, the water or at the edge of a pond or a lake, that doesn't mean it's not there. Yeah. Possibly that might be because it's just low concentrations in the water there. So it's not making that film of a bunch of algae up near the shoreline. So you don't know it's there.
Mm-hmm. Which makes it even scarier that if your dog likes to swim, right? And why don't, because
and we have so many lakes and ponds around here.
I know. And this isn't to do with the algae, but it's something to do with if you're in a southern state like we are and there's salt water around you. We heard of that dog that died, the black lab that had gone swimming at the beach, and then it passed from ingesting too much salt water. So that is something that maybe you could talk about a little too for people that live where there's salt water.
In my 15 years of ER, I saw so many saltwater toxicities, and I know everybody likes to take their dogs to the beach, but I think I don't take my dogs to the beach after seeing the number of dogs that were affected, but they consume the salt water, their sodium levels become really high, and it becomes toxic to the brain. So they start showing signs of walking off balance, vomiting, diarrhea, sometimes seizures, and it takes typically days for us to reverse those symptoms. The other thing that we get worried about is on top of the saltwater poisoning, a lot of them will end up with heat-related symptoms as well. So they'll have kind of either heat exhaustion or heat stroke along with it, which kind of complicates treatment.
Mm. And are the ones, I know, because sadly this one died, do most of them make it or they don't, or it just depends on how much they drank?
Most of them did make it. I would say probably 90% of them, if the owners bring them into the emergency hospital when they see the symptoms, we can pull them through with IV fluids and just supportive care, for a couple of days. Mm-hmm. The ones that we saw that didn't make it are where they started vomiting, having diarrhea. The diarrhea turned to bloody diarrhea. And then by the time they got to the hospital, it was too far gone. So I think if you're, really, really up on it and you catch it early and take them in and you can get some blood work done, look at your electrolytes and know right away, I think those dogs have a really good chance of surviving.
Okay. Yeah. Jim and I always talk about, because Carly, our dog, loves to swim in our pool, and we always say, oh, she probably loved going on the boat, but I will not take her because I'm so worried, because she loves to drink the water in the pool, which I don't like that either. But, I just could see her just sitting there lapping up this salt water and getting sick, Yeah,
they do.
Yeah. So what else do you, coming up, we have some things that we need to probably mention. We've got Thanksgiving coming up. That's, I guess, our next big holiday that I think last time you were on with me, we kind of talked about the things that pets would eat that would cause them to get sick and what to keep away from them. So as long as we're kind of on this topic of poisonings and things that dogs ingest or pets ingest and get sick, why don't we just get a little more into some of those things with the holidays, even though it's a couple months away, it'll come fast. And Halloween. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I wanted to mention one more thing about the lakes and the ocean.
Oh, sure.
We were kind of on those. So I know I had looked at the ASPCA article a little bit, and I had read through it about the blue-green algae and the lakes, and then also some of the ocean things, like the dangers in the ocean that they can be exposed to. And they had listed like jellyfish and squid and starfish and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. We didn't typically see a lot of that. But one thing that surprisingly, and I think, it wasn't something we really learned in school, it was kind of something you learn once you move, near the near the ocean, but we saw a lot of dogs picking up dead fish along the shoreline, a lot of catfish, and the catfish barbs, they would pick them up and it would sting them, and all around their muzzle and their lips would be swollen and sometimes become infected. So there are a few dog beaches in our area and probably all around where there's oceans. So we always kind of advise people, if you're walking your pet on the beach, just to make sure they're not picking up some of those fish and dead, animals on the shore. Some of those are poisonous and some of them do sting. The other thing I wanted to bring up about the lakes is we're kind of talking about the blue-green algae. Mm-hmm. I think one of our biggest dangers with the lakes in Florida are the alligators. So we saw a lot of dogs being attacked by alligators going swimming in the lakes as well. That's one thing I wanted to bring up in case people don't think about it.
No, that's true, because we've recently had, pretty recently, like within the last month, I think there was the one that was killed by an alligator. We always hope that people will keep their dogs on their leashes and away from those water sources, but sometimes they get loose and there's nothing you can do about it, I guess. It's really sad.
Yeah, and some of the retrievers, it is really sad, and some of the retrievers just jump right in there. And the problem with the alligators is once they grab them, they just apply so much pressure that sometimes the damage is too much and we can't fix them. They have broken ribs or internal bleeding or injuries that, by the time they get to the hospital, it's just too late. So
yeah. Now, do you ever see and on the topic of that too, do you see the water snakes? What is it, a water moccasin or something? Do those ever happen to get dogs down here? I don't know.
They do, and we do see that sometimes. I think the majority of snake bites that we see are rattlesnake bites, and luckily most of the ERs do carry the anti-venom for that, but it also works for some of the water moccasins too, so they can be treated. It just doesn't seem, I guess, the balance between rattlesnakes and water moccasins, there must be a lot more rattlesnakes around here. So.
Yeah, probably.
But we did on occasion see them. We did see them. It did happen.
Yeah, and I know, like you said, the retriever dogs, they love water, whether it be the salt water or the lake or whatever it may be. And here where we live in Florida, there's too many dangers, I think. And if I owned that type of water dog, I would just choose not to do it, just to keep them safe.
I agree. I have a golden retriever, and when we walk past all the little lakes and ponds in our subdivision, she just pulls me towards them. But
yeah,
I don't let her go because after all I've seen, it definitely worries me. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we were able to talk about this blue-green algae, and there's not a lot to say about it other than what you said, that the danger is there, and I guess what's so scary is the fact that it kills so quickly, and when you said that it could even be present and you don't see it, that to me is really scary too, because you may think that it's safe for your pet to go in there when really it's not.
Yeah, and I think the safest thing is just to keep them away from the water completely. I mean, being that you can't treat for it in most cases, it's just not worth the risk.
Yeah. Now, I was going to jump into that whole other food thing, but you know what? I think I want to give you the chance to talk about your new veterinary medical center that's almost ready to open, because I can't wait to see it. So why don't we let you talk about that right now?
I am so excited about it. We have been doing mobile, as you know, for the last year. So we do have a mobile division of our hospital, but we will be opening our standalone facility in mid-October. We will have a dental suite, dental x-ray, surgery suite. We have ultrasound room. We have an isolation room for animals that are contagious. We have 7 exam rooms.